Hello everybody, this is FourFourTwo. I am Adam Cleary, and just when it looked like Chelsea were finally starting to turn a corner, oh dear. Just to give you the cliff notes, enormous story in The Guardian today regarding financial irregularities, what's going on here, under Roman Ambramovich that could result in a potential points deduction. Now first off, it's actually important to state this isn't just like some random sting being done by a newspaper on one football club. It's part of a far larger investigation called Cyprus Confidential. Some 3.6 million offshore company records have been uncovered by something called, I've got it here, the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, and The Guardian are one of the newspapers that have received some of this information, and contained within it is some stuff about Chelsea. Specifically that their former owner, Roman Ambramovich, you remember him, may not just have been conducting business in a way that flouted profitability and sustainability rules, but did so in a way that just completely took the... Alright, so just if you're a Chelsea fan, okay, here is the very top line as far as you're concerned. An investigation is now going to have to take place into Abramovich's stewardship of Chelsea, and if it turns out that the club have breached regulations in the way it looks like they have in these papers, then they are more than likely facing a points deduction. So, small history lesson for the under-20s amongst you. Roman Ambramovich, he bought Chelsea in 2003 for £140 million, and then just threw the most insane amount of money you'd ever seen in football at this club. Like, it's just worse and weirder has happened since, but at the time, this was unprecedented. You'd see nothing like it. Like, they went overnight from having a transfer window where they went and got Emmanuel Petit and William Gallas to one under Abramovich, where they went and got Crespo and Veron and Duff and Makaleli and Parker and Cole and Duff and Bridge and Ken Johnson and Mutu, just all in the space of like 2 months. It's just mind-blowing. And of course, he finally sold up and moved on last year when the whole Russian invasion of Ukraine and that the UK government started putting all those sanctions on Russian businessmen with ties to the country, and that just meant his whole ownership, his stewardship of Chelsea was no longer sustainable, so he just packed up, he gave it to Todd Bowler, by God, and he left, probably forever. And in fairness, from the very moment he moved on, the club's finances became under investigation because Bowley and co, they looked at the books when they took over and decided to inform the Premier League entirely voluntarily that there was some incomplete financial information in there. Basically, they were saying that sometime between 2012 and 2019, so before they got there, honest, some stuff was not being done correctly or not being done accurately, so they gave that to the Premier League. Now, just to editorialize slightly, this is what's known as an aside. I saw that at the time and I was like, why would you tell on yourself like that unless you know things are so much worse, so you're trying to get in early with good behavior and be like, hey, we're not the bad guys here. We're as shocked as you are. I think you'll find we're actually being very cooperative, Your Honour. Anyway, though, that's all old news, and this is new news. Or news, as it's called. What The Guardian are reporting here is that these Cyprus Confidential files show a trail of hidden payments that are directly linked to the club's footballing activities. They involve transfers, they involve managers, stuff that had they not made these payments, they likely wouldn't have enjoyed the success they did. So case in point, in July 2017, a company called Conabar Holdings, who are based in the tax haven of the British Virgin Islands, signed an agreement with Italian football agent Federico Pastorello. They paid him £10 million for a 75% stake in something called Excellence Investment Fund. It was just some like random US financial agency based out of like Denver or Delaware, Dunder Mifflin, one of the D's. They're not important. What is important is that Conabar Holdings is owned by Roman Ambramovich, and this agent, Pastorello, is known to have very close links to Chelsea's manager at the time, Antonio Conte. Well, what's wrong with that, you might ask? Just two businesses doing a bit of business? Well, on the exact same day they paid him this £10 million, Chelsea also announced that Conte had just signed a new £9.6 million a year contract. And then, of course, there is Eden Hazard, undoubtedly one of Chelsea's best players ever, undoubtedly one of the most important players over the last couple of years, a player without whom they would have been unlikely to have won half as much as they actually did win, including that Premier League title that Conte got. However, when he arrived at the club, it was reported that on top of the 30-ish million they paid Lille for him, his agent Jean-Biko Penake was due a significant agent fee. Reports at the time were that he got something like £5 or £6 million for his part in making that deal happen. But in March 2013, so some 8 months after Hazard's arrival at the club, documents suggest that another company based in the British Virgin Islands and owned by Abramovich paid around £6 million to a Dubai-based company called Gulf Value FZE. Officially, this was for, and I've got it written down here, advisory services related to sport research and consultancy. And that particular contract was signed for by anybody? Do we think we can hazard a guess? It was Jean-Biko Penake. It was literally his agent. Now, as with literally everything in this story, that could be a perfectly legitimate bit of business between two companies that has absolutely nothing to do with Chelsea. It could be that this agent worked for several Dubai-based financial companies, and they all provide advisory services related to sport research and consultancy to loads of companies like Leaston Holdings, who are an investment firm based in a tax haven. I hear that there are loads of those who are positively frothing at the gash to get advisory services related to sport. Or it could be that they backchannel the money required to pay Havertz agent through two companies based in a tax haven, so that A, they wouldn't have to declare it to the UK government and therefore pay tax on it, and also B, wouldn't have to declare it to football's governing bodies, therefore circumventing profitability and sustainability rules in the process. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But I mean, there's loads of other stuff in here as well. Like, there's some £7 million in payments to the Lemek brothers. They're like known Abramovich associates. They're very close Abramovich associates. They were responsible or partly responsible for helping bring in like Robin, Ivanovic, Matic, Carlo Ancelotti. Like, they've got loads of ties to the club. There's money going to them. There's just loads of stuff like that. But why is any of this actually a problem? Like, football, financially speaking, is just the most transparently corrupt thing on the planet. Every major club, every club full stop, is at it in some regard to try and see what they can get away with. What's different about Chelsea doing it? Why are they being singled out here? Well, because while football is just a yawning black hole void of morality when it comes to money, there are still rules. And when the big clubs break the big rules in a big way, there has to be a big reaction. Otherwise, what's the point? And this here is the quote in the Guardian report, which if I was a Chelsea fan would have me slightly worried that this wasn't just going to be a little slap on the wrist or just getting a major fine or some kind of just like transfer ban or something. Why I genuinely think a points deduction is a reality. Football finance expert Kieran Maguire, he literally wrote The Price of Football, which is a book. If you've not read it, you should absolutely read it. Says that if there is proof that the club has used third-party transactions to circumvent the profitability and sustainability rules, then sanctions would either be financial or a big points deduction. The latter, so the points deduction, is more likely, as any commission investigating a club's circumstances will want to put out a deterrent that dissuades others from repeating such behaviour. And that's the thing, if there is proof of third-party transactions. And just to make sure this is a good explainer and I'm doing my job, every single other company and individual I have mentioned in this video is a third party. Doesn't matter if they're owned by Roman Ambramovich. That does not make them affiliated with Chelsea FC. They are an entirely separate business entity. They have their own money and they are not allowed to spend that on footballing endeavours that would benefit Chelsea. That breaks the rules. Now, I, for very obvious reasons, cannot say whether or not I think that has taken place or not. There will be a big investigation now done either by UEFA or the Premier League or possibly even both, and they will establish whether any wrongdoing has occurred and they will decide what the punishment should be accordingly. But what I can say is, if I was a Chelsea fan and done that many videos on them this season, I might as well be, I would be quite worried about this. It isn't set in stone by any stretch of the imagination, and I imagine the comments will be full of like, well, what's happening with the Man City investigation? Why is that taking a million years? Fair point, but ignoring all that, just this in isolation, I'd be concerned. Like, I have read this report, it is here, it is on the Guardian website if you want to give it a read yourself. It does not look good. Like, if this is all easily explainable and no wrongdoing has taken place, that would simply be one of the most incredible stories of coincidence and unfortune that I have ever seen. It's possible. It is absolutely possible. It's a weird old world, but oh dear. But if they do get that points deduction, when's that going to happen? That's the big question. Is it going to impact them this season when they're fighting to claw their way back into Europe? Almost certainly not. Everton are still under investigation and are facing a points deduction. Man City are under an enormous investigation and facing God knows what kind of sanctions. These have all been rumbling on for over a season at this point. If this is going to happen to Chelsea, I will be astonished if it happens this season. I'll even be surprised if it happens next season. The only thing I won't be surprised by is if it just happens, because I've read it. Anyway, though, this shouldn't detract in the short term from what's going on the pitch. Chelsea have been really good lately. We did a great video on them, but how they battled back against Man City time and time again. How Pochettino's got them firing. And I'm going to do another one later in this week about how he has managed to fix this team when they looked crap at the start of the season. So on the pitch, things are great. If I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be concentrating on that for now. But this is probably the biggest story in football today, at least. So hopefully this video has helped to explain precisely what has happened, what is going on, and what is coming somewhere down the line. So if you've enjoyed it, this is also the kind of thing we do. It's not just me playing with little Subutio figures and telling you what a box midfield is. So do subscribe to us here on 442, because subscribing is the one thing that really does help us out. It's the one thing you guys can do to help support the channel. We don't ask for money. We don't have a Patreon, nothing like that. Just click on the little subscribe button. That's good enough for me. In the meantime, though, sorry it wasn't better news, Chelsea fans. Go get me on Twitter at Adam Cleary, CLERY, X, Instagram. I think I'm on Threads. I can't even remember anymore. We'll talk about it more. We'll turn those frowns upside down. Get 442 on all the socials in the corner of the video. Don't know why I even pointed out. You've got eyes. But until next time, I've been Adam Cleary. This has been 442, and I will see you soon, my lord. Is that what you say when you're in court? My lord? Your honor? I don't know. Goodbye.